You should thank me, brother.
He was cast out, stripped of his name, and left to rot in the mud by the two people who trusted the most. Dying in the forgotten alley, Zane Raven's eyes' dark instincts whispered that the first heartbeat he heard should become his food. Every ancient instinct within his blood urged him to take what he needed to survive. Instead, the first person to find him offered a bandage instead of fear, and compassion instead of judgment. Evelyn Mesa believed she was rescuing a dying stranger, but she had no idea she had just opened the door of a humble apothecary to an exiled Vesperian lord. The black carriage tore through the narrow alleys of Oak Haven like a funeral bell on wheels. Above the rooftops, factory chimneys poured amber smoke into the evening sky until it drifted downwards in slow flakes, settling over the districts like strange golden snow. Then, the carriage door burst open. A broad figure was hurled into the street. His body slammed into the freezing mud with enough force to scatter dirty water across broken bricks. He rolled once before stopping face down, his breath stolen from his lungs. For several seconds, he could not move. Every vein beneath his pale skin pulsed with molten agony. The carriage slowed just enough for the windows to slide open. Gideon leaned comfortably against the polished frame. His smile never reached his eyes. You should thank me, brother. Something silver flashed between his fingers. Zane's signet ring. The crest of the House of Raven Eye. 5 centuries of bloodline, reduced to a piece of metal. Gideon flicked it carelessly. The ring bounced once against the stone before disappearing into the gutter filled with black rainwater. You no longer need it. The window shut. The horses surged forward. A violent shiver seized his body. Beneath the collar of his coat, angry silver burns spread across his neck like metallic brutes searching for his heart. His breathing became ragged. He watched through pupils that were already beginning to dilate into solid obsidian ink as the carriage vanished into the copper-tinted dark, leaving him to die in the very city his family had built on iron and breath. The memory of the betrayal was a jagged shard in his mind, cutting deeper than a silver poison. But before I take you to a few hours earlier, you've come this far. So dear viewer, please do not leave this video without giving us your distinguished societal approval and hitting that subscribe button in order to encourage our house to keep releasing more records. Now that I hope you have, just a few hours earlier, the air in the Raven Eye Manor had been thick with the scent of polished copper and the steady rhythmic hiss of steam pipes. Lord Raven Eye was gone. After 517 years, the sovereign of the house had finally taken his last breath. Zane stood in the wake of his father's passing, raising a silver chalice to toast to the lineage that he was born to lead. His betrothed, Lady Celestine, stood not so far from him. Her expression was peaceful and tender. She smiled exactly the same way she always had. It comforted him. So he drank. As the first sip of the vintage Vis Vitalis hit his tongue, his chest tightened. Within seconds, an invisible fire exploded through every vein in his body. The silver chalice slipped from his fingers. He struck the polished stone with a deafening clang. His knees buckled as the room tilted violently. His heartbeat became thunder inside his skull. Silver ash. Impossible. No outsider even knew it existed. Only the oldest Vesperian families understood its effects. He tried to speak, but nothing came. Only pain. Gideon stepped from behind, his hand settling possessively on Celestine's waist. The touch lingered. It was intimate. Zane's world shattered far more completely than the poison ever could. Celestine did not pull away. Instead, she leaned closer.
I truly did try to pity you,
she whispered so only Zane could hear. Gideon smiled. Zane struggled to stand, but his body refused. His pupils expanded instinctively as the poison invaded his blood. His fangs descended against his own will as he began to growl like a feral beast under the effects of the poison. Gasps erupted throughout the chamber. Gideon turned dramatically towards the assembled elders.
My brother has finally surrendered to Vesper and Wraith.
No! Zane managed to growl out.
He attacked father before the old sovereign died. The poison of madness has consumed him.
The lies spread faster, and fear did the rest. By nightfall, the heir of House Raven Eye had become an entity. The memory dissolved as another wave of agony dragged Zane back to the freezing alley. His heartbeat slowed. He was dying. His ancient instincts were screaming for the life force he needed to survive when the silhouette of a woman appeared through the industrial haze. Evelyn Mercer was closing her clockwork apothecary for the night when she found the man she took for a fallen titan. She nearly stopped breathing. Even unconscious, he looked powerful enough to split an oak with his bare hands. Her first instinct was to leave, any sensible person would, but the oath every licensed apothecary swore echoed inside her mind. No life abandoned, no suffering ignored. Her fingers brushed his wrists, his pulse staggered beneath her touch. She sighed as she hauled his near-lifeless weight into the brass-wheeled gurney with unease, the metal rattling over the cobblestones as she retreated into her clinic. It was a warm sanctuary that smelled of dried lavender and sharp copper reagents. She locked the door behind them.
You've made it this far, so now you must do your part.
She carefully cut away the portions of his raincoat. The burns disturbed her. She had a few suspicions, but had never seen anything like that before. She assembled a delicate extraction device of glass tubes, brass valves, and hand-operated vacuum pump, inserting the needle with practiced precision. Dark blood slowly traveled through the translucent tubing into a waiting crystal vial. She blinked. The blood did not behave like human blood. It separated into deep crimson that settled beneath, and above it floated a layer black as polished obsidian, shimmering like liquid midnight. She reached for one of her chemical salts. The instant a single grain touched the sample, the vial hissed violently. Silver sparks erupted inside the glass. The black layer pulsed as though alive. Evelyn stared in stunned silence. Oh no! She hurried towards the old cabinet, reaching for a forbidden medical manuscript inherited from her late mentor. Its leather cover had no title, only a faded symbol. Its pages contained ancient illustrations and physiological diagrams. Notes copied from physicians who claimed to have treated creatures few believed existed. Cold body temperature, obsidian pupils, silver toxicity, requirements of vis vitalis. Her breathing slowed. She looked back towards the unconscious stranger, her eyes widened. A Vesperan, an ancient order of aristocratic people whose extraordinary biology required vis vitalis, the life force naturally bound in fresh human blood to maintain their vitality and heightened senses. They lived beside ordinary society, hidden behind noble titles and carefully guarded traditions. They were mortals still, but with extraordinary long lives. Some rumored to have lived up to 1,000 years with adequate supply of untainted vis vitalis. Silver ash alone could unravel that remarkable physiology, turning their own blood against them. The realization struck her like thunder that she had rescued one of the oldest bloodlines in the empire beneath her own roof. A sudden pressure wrapped around her wrist. She gasped. His eyes were open, entirely black and bloodshot. As his body's temperature plummeted towards a deathly chill, his fangs descended into an involuntary primal reflex. Zane tried to maintain his aristocratic mask. I am merely a traveler with a rare blood condition, miss. She didn't flinch as she met his gaze. Evelyn Mercer, and I know you aren't just a traveler. I can clearly see your fangs. And I know what happens when silver ash hits your Vesperan's veins. Do not trouble yourself with lies, Lord. Raven's Eye, Zane muttered. Well, Lord Raven's Eye, your heart is about to stop. The crisis hit at midnight, as the steel vis vitalis she had previously prepared for medical emergencies could no longer suffice. The poison reached the core of his chest, consuming him from the inside. Every instinct within him cried out for fresh living vis vitalis, directly from a human donor. Evelyn stepped back instinctively. Zane? He wasn't hearing her. He staggered from the table, walking one unsteady step, following by another. His breathing became harsh. He seized her shoulders before he could even realize he had moved. The force carried both of them backward in a flash until her back met the wall lined with clockwork tools. Tiny brass gears rattled onto the floor. His breathing coming in rag-hot rasp against her neck. His eyes remained almost entirely black as his fangs were visible. Every instinct urged him towards a heartbeat echoing inside her chest. He could hear it, feel it, but as he looked into her eyes, he found a kindness that stayed his hand. No! He forced himself backward, one painful inch.
I will not repay your kindness with horror. If death is the price, then death it shall be. Leave.
He managed to whisper. Evelyn did not move.
Please. If you stay, I may cease to deserve your kindness.
She looked at the man before her. Monster surrendered to instincts. This man was exhausting every fragment of his strength, resisting it. Her mentor had once written a single sentence in the margins of his forgotten journal. A predator who chooses mercy is rarer than any miracle alchemy can create. She slowly knelt beside him. You need living vis vitalis. She reached for a scalpel. No, I forbid it. You may know what I am, but you know only what the books say. Then tell me. For a long moment, only the quiet answered, and then he finally spoke.
In our oldest traditions, there exists a title, the libation.
It is neither slavery
Nor sacrifice demanded by law.
What is it then?
A willing soul.
one who freely offers a measure of living vis vitalis to save a Vesperan entirely by choice. It is the greatest form of trust.
And has anyone ever been yours?
Never.
Her grip tightened before placing the scalpel on her palm. What are you doing? Zane asked. She pressed with one gentle pressure. Making my own choice. I became an apothecary because my father died while others debated whether he was worth saving. I swore no one would ever suffer that fate while I possessed the means to help. With one swift, careful movement, she drew a thin crimson line across her skin. A few bright drops welled immediately. The scent reached him. Everything inside Zane came alive. His pupils widened even further. His heartbeat became like thunder. The fragrance was unlike anything he had ever encountered. It was fresh, bright, almost luminous. It carried faint traces of lavender oils, copper tinctures, distilled moonworts, and countless years spent preparing alchemical medicines with bare hands. The reagents she handled every day had gradually become parts of her own living chemistry. Her blood had been quietly transformed by years of harmless exposure to rare restorative compounds. His vis vitalis resonated differently. Among Vesperans, such blood would have been considered unimaginably rare. She knelt in front of him. You have my permission. Drink. The feeding was not an act of violence. It was desperate, reverent surrender. As her pre-refined blood entered his system, the burning silver racing through his veins retreated as though driven back by an invisible sunlight. The rigid muscles across his shoulders relaxed. Color slowly returned to his face. The taste was unlike anything high society blood farms ever provided. It was intoxicating. In the heavy silence of the aftermath, the blood tie was formed. Evelyn was pale, leaning into the intoxicating heat of Zane's form as a subtle narcotic calm washed over her. Among Vesperans, nature had fashioned a subtle gift within their saliva, a gentle calming essence that eased the fear of willing donors, preventing panic during moments of exchange. Zane looked at his wrist where the silver ash were fading into a faint glowing amber pulse. You have given me more than your blood, Evelyn, Zane whispered. If kingdoms demanded every jewel I possess in exchange for what you entrusted to me tonight, a quiet breath escaped him. I will count myself impoverished still. Color rose gently to Evelyn's cheeks. The days that followed settled into an unexpected rhythm. Morning sunlight filtered through stained glass, while copper kettles hissed gently over blue flames. Evelyn prepared medicines as she always had, yet now another pair of hands quietly repaired shelves, carried crates and sent them to the foreigners whenever customers had gone. Zane recovered with astonishing speed. Every day revealed another remarkable effect of Evelyn's unique refined blood. His heightened senses sharpened without awakening the unbearable hunger that normally accompanied increased power. He had even developed a temporary immunity to the very silver that almost killed him. Their bond grew into the kind of passion that described the moon and the tide. In the quiet aftermath of their intimacy, she listened as he confessed the depth of his brother and ex-fiance's betrayal. And so, together, they began to plan a series of moves that would turn the industrial giants of the city into dust. Weeks later, beneath a moon hidden by smoke and fog, a solitary shadow slipped soundlessly across outer walls of the Raven's Eye Manor. Zane moved through the darkness as though born from it. Even servants passed him within arm's reach without even noticing. Hidden beneath the estate rested a private cellar where refined vis vitalis traveled through polished copper conduits before reaching the family's crystal reservoirs. He was carrying a small brass vial carefully prepared by Evelyn. Earlier that afternoon, she had sealed it herself. It will not destroy the vis vitalis, she explained. It merely persuades the chemical balance to become unreliable. Now, he uncorked the vial. The translucent liquid flowed into the conduits that carried vis vitalis into Gideon's valve. Nothing visibly happened. The following evening, Gideon reclined inside his velvet-lined chamber. A crystal goblet rested comfortably in his hand. He drank, smiling as he relished in the taste. And then, the room suddenly changed. The dark corners became darker. He saw shadows stretching unnaturally across the walls. He let out a strangled shriek as the figures he saw began to multiply. Their whispers began to emerge from inside the walls themselves.
Murderer.
No! Get away from me! He threw the crystal glass against the fireplace. His servants hurried in to find him caught beneath his desk, insisting invisible creatures had entered into the room. Celestine followed just a few moments later. What is it, my love? With an expression of suspicion and a hint of resentment, his gaze found hers. What are you up to? She stared in disbelief. Have you lost your senses? Only you and I share that source. He pointed to the blood valve. And? Celestine asked. And? His gaze turned to the spilled drink. Her eyes followed his gaze. She was wroth. You believe I did this? I believe ambition rarely sleeps. From that day forward, every shared glance and conversations between them carried a vibration of betrayal that had begun to rot the alliance from the inside, turning the two conspirators into paranoid enemies before Zane had even stepped into the light. The premiere of The Crown of St. Aurelius had been intended as the social triumph of the season. Beneath the scoring domes painted with celestial frescoes, the empire's oldest families glittered beneath crystal chandeliers. Gold leaf caught the glow of thousands of gaslights, while a full orchestra filled the vast chamber with elegant strings. Evelyn had managed to infiltrate into the box seating light grid, her fingers moving with the precision of a master clockmaker as she installed her projection device. High above the catwalk, Zane watched. Mid-performance, the gas lamps flickered and turned a sickly bruise-hued purple. The music faltered as the stage curtains were suddenly overtaken by massive flickering shadow art projections. It wasn't the play. It was private letters between Gideon and Celestine, detailing the silver ash poisoning and their cold-blooded plan to frame Zane. It was displayed across the ceiling in giant jagged scripts. Silver ash purchased through shell merchants, signed, paid, and delivered. Every transaction carefully dated during Lord Raven's Eye's final years. The nobility watched in hushed, breathless horrors as Celestine, draped in white silk and pearls, was unmasked in the center of her own triumph. She fled the box as the first rumors of traitor rippled through the crowd. Driven to the brink of insanity and social ruin, Gideon and Celestine rushed to the Grand Family Council at the Raven's Eye Manor, desperate to finalize their control before the truth finally took hold. Within House Raven's Eye itself, panic had replaced certainty. Council members demanded explanations, unaware to the house that deep beneath the manor, in the steam-filled darkness of the conduit tunnels, Evelyn and Zane walked in silence. They had gained access through hidden vents beneath ancient stone pathways that marked the underground arteries of the estate's vis vitalis network. They reached the central convergence valve. Every drop of vis vitalis flowing towards the Raven's Eye estate passed through this single chamber. Evelyn carefully removed the polished brass cap of pipe. From her satchel, she withdrew a small crystal vessel. Inside rested a clear solution that reflected shifting colors whenever steam passed across the surface. She gently poured the compound into the valve. The reaction was instantaneous. Tiny silver hues spread through the steam inside the glass inspection chambers. The living vis vitalis reacted with Evelyn's compound, triggering an alchemical cascade. It changed from a vibrant crimson into a thick dull grey almost instantaneously, turning it into a useless sludge. It cut off the manu's supply of life. "No one will die," she whispered as they crept out. Upstairs, as the elders of the Raven's Eye clan shouted in panic over the loss of their vitality, the heavy iron doors of the chamber flew open with a sound like a thunderclap. Zane walked in, a titan of retribution whose very presence seemed to suck the heat of the room. Gideon stumbled backwards. His hands trembled. Hallucinations and falling vis vitalis had hollowed him into a frightened imitation of the confident man who had once thrown his brother into the gutter. Zane stepped into the mahogany table and dropped a single stained bottle onto the surface.
Our father did not die of his 5 centuries. He died because my brother and my betrothed could not wait for a natural end. They fed him silver ash until his heart simply gave up.
"Can you prove it?" an elder asked. "I can." He produced Lord Raven's Eye's preserved medical journals. Beside them came Evelyn's detailed alchemical analysis, comparing the residue of the old sovereign's medicine bottles with traces recovered from Gideon's correspondence and Celestine's hidden purchases. Every report matched perfectly. The poison accumulated slowly, Zane explained. Too little to arouse suspicion, but enough to shorten a Vesperan's lifespan by decades. Gideon lunged desperately. "He's lying!" Celestine fell to her knees. "We only wanted the future." The elders, enraged by the parricide and the total destruction of their fortune, did not hesitate. Gideon and Celestine were stripped of their names and wealth on the spot. A chilling silence fell over the room as the 2 traitors were led away in iron shackles, destined for the salt-damp trench. The carriage carried them far beyond the capital until green fields surrendered to barren cliffs overlooking the violent grey sea. Far below waited the salt-damp trench, a sunless subterranean penal colony where only the sound was the dripping of the sulfur and the rat cough of the forgotten, working the mines until their lungs finally failed them. Zane was officially reinstated as the head of House Raven's Eye, and justice at last had found its voice. Several weeks later, House Raven's Eye flourished once more under Zane's leadership. The vis vitalis network had been rebuilt, trade resumed. Council meetings ended in peace rather than chaos, but victory felt like a hollow weight. Knowing the sheer danger that his world brought to a mortal, the assassins, the blood hunters, and the political vultures, Zane forced himself to retreat into the cold grandeur of his estate, leaving Evelyn behind in a quiet apothecary. Not because he wished her to leave, but because he loved her enough to fear what standing beside him would cost her. He thought he was protecting her, but the separation was a physical agony that neither of them could endure. Because of the blood tie forged when he fed from her, the distance felt like a slow siphoning of their very souls. Zane sat in his library, the silence of the manor feeling like a tomb. His fangs constantly ached, not because of starvation, but because of the weight of her absence. In her shop, Evelyn sat by the fire, her skin feeling unnaturally chill without his proximity. Her heart tethered to the man she feared she had lost to his own throne. They both endured this for weeks. On a storm-drenched night, when the rain lashed heavily against the city's spire, inside her clinic, Evelyn secured the shutters before extinguishing the final lantern. But then, the door was pushed open. Zane stood beneath the storm. Rain streamed from his dark coat. His hair clung damply to his forehead. The look they shared was one of raw, unshielded pain. "I tried to stay away, Evelyn," Zane rasped. "I tried to let you live in the light. But the word has no meaning without the rhythm of your pulse. His voice was thick with a mix of grief and longing. Evelyn did not answer with words. She walked towards him. The tension between them was a fever that made the air hum. They spent a few minutes locked in one another's warmth, and then finally, she looked at him in the eyes as if staring into his soul. And then, she slowly loosened the high lace collar at her neck, revealing the graceful line of her throat. Her arteries were pulsing fast, her skin radiating with a heat that called to his very core.
I've made my choice, Zane. I want to be with you for as long as it takes. Make me like you.